Riga, the Tier 7 heavy Soviet cruiser. She doesn't seem to have a lot of nice things said about her in Legends. Is this because she's bad, or maybe just misunderstood? Let's find out. Okay, disclaimer. I haven't played this ship a ton. And what I mean by that, there are some players who got this thing and just took it and ran, and they have a million XP in this ship. So to offset my lack of experience with playing this boat, I did some digging around. I did some interviews to help meld my opinion with others on this tech tree boat. The consensus of the community is really that this boat isn't that great. I'm not going to say bad. The accuracy seems trolly, overpins tend to happen a lot, and it's not as tanky as it could be, and these things tend to frustrate players and could make it seem like a bad boat. Now, I would 100% agree with all of those things above after playing her some more, but I will try to offer some tips and see if it can help with your Soviet heavy cruiser play. And this might be twofold for the Kronshtadt, who is coming out right now after the campaign, so there's going to be a lot of heavy Soviet cruiser players right now in the game. The match is on North. We're going to play cautious at first, but I know there's a DD and A, so we might as well put that radar to use. It doesn't last very long, but the range is phenomenal, and while the Z39 has a lot of health, we're not going to kill him. Maybe we can scare him out of this cap, or hopefully get a little teammate fire and take some of his health points. That's probably the best thing that you could do in one of these ships. Now, it's the size of a battleship, the Riga and the Kronshtadt as well. So you're going to be spotted early. You're not going to be able to maneuver very well. You're probably not going to drop spot. So I would be cautious, play from a little farther back. You have railguns, basically. They have great shell velocity and they're super long range in both ships. The accuracy maybe is a little more questionable at longer ranges, but still. I would say as a cruiser, you become more powerful and more valuable the longer the game goes on and you're still alive. So playing cautious at the beginning and staying alive seems to be the best advice that I could offer you. My build is pretty standard, I would say. Aiming systems, propulsion, concealment, and MBM3. Lightful is a great commander, but if you're free to play, and if you're Derka Games, I use Kuznetsov with range, intuitive, we'll talk about that, DPM perks, and then refill station. Intuitive. I like the perk, but I don't. It's great on Stalingrad, where you're an AP-only ship and you don't need a 3% fire chance boost that Igniter is going to give you. But on the Kronshtadt and the Riga, fire chance could really be necessary. Yeah, I shoot AP most of the time, but bow tanking BBs and or heavy cruisers might make me switch over to HE, and I would really like to have that extra 3% fire chance per shell. Intuitive. It's kind of useless early game. Yes, there was a DD in the cap. I could have seen that. I don't need intuitive to tell me that. Since you're playing from farther back ranges at the beginning of the front half of the game, it's basically useless. Most good players on top of that are going to be able to know where DDs are and things like that. If you're a newer player, it can be helpful, and also late game, it could be nice when it comes down to hunting maybe a single DD, which does happen every once in a while. Mostly though, you're going to get better mileage with Kronshtadt, Riga, Tallinn, etc. if you just run Igniter. It is on in this game though, so I just wanted to leave it on the build and explain myself. So there we go. Now moving on. The Riga. Why did we go from Tallinn and basically smacking every other cruiser to Riga where you're not really that special or that good? Well, Tallinn is exceptionally good, and that is why it got nerfed in the last update though. Riga's problems. The gun accuracy seems to be pretty trolly, and I'm really not sure why. Sigma is 1.8, I guess that's really not that fantastic. Stalingrad, for instance, has a Sigma of 2.8, I believe it's the best in the game. They're the most accurate cruiser and or battleship in the game. Honestly, watching the dispersion of Riga though, it seems like she has a battlecruiser dispersion ellipse, and I'm kind of talking out of my back end here, I don't really know. Now Kronshtadt I know for sure does have battleship dispersion ellipses, so Riga is a little bit better than that, but still, prepare yourself for some trolley accuracy. On top of that, I do feel like the ship kind of has a small HP pool to go along with her gargantuan size, and let me kind of explain why I think this. Piotr Bagration has 1,000 more HP. Baltimore is tiny in comparison and has 400 more HP. Yes, they're all classified as heavy cruisers, but Riga is massive. It's like Azuma or Siegfried big, not quite that big, but still, it's like that size of ship without having the huge HP buff. I know it seems like an arbitrary comparison, but in World of Warships, generally the larger the vessel, the more armor, the more health points it has, right? I mean, there are exceptions, but mostly this seems like a pretty normal rule. On PC, stock Riga has 47k, 47,000 health, and B-Hull has 50,000 health. I know she was brought from tier 9 to tier 7, and they kind of had to balance it out. You know, ships like Baltimore and I believe Charles Martel and Mogami, those were tier 8 ships that were brought to tier 7, so I see why they nerfed her a little bit, but I think Riga could stand to have more health. On the note of armor, Riga does have a pretty robust armor scheme, I would say. 25mm bow, yuck, but a generous icebreaker. Huge superstructure, bad. But turrets are well protected. 19% torp reduction, that's good for a cruiser. 150mm belt as well as strong deck armor, so it's pretty good. The citadel is raised and it's massively long, so giving broadside is a death sentence, but that's really just Soviet ships 101. Don't go broadside. There you go. So it seems to have a robust armor scheme, but man, when I think that I'm being tanky and there's no way anyone can take me out of a position, I just take massive damage. Skill issue? Probably. But I would expect this thing to be a tank, an immovable object like a miniature Stalingrad, but that's really not what I have found at all. Kind of like the Kronshtadt, it's going to come down to clever positioning and armor angling to stay alive. On that note, one of the best heavy cruiser plays that I could offer you, especially when in doubt, is to use an island to protect yourself. Let's take a look at a example. Greece. We moved to a nice protected location, but one where my radar is still going to be useful to cover B cap, C cap, and D cap. It's a very useful position, and also one that's going to help me smack broadsides of any ship that wants to get across towards C and D. If they go in front of me, they're going to pay with their HP. Now, a sneaky little Shimikaze tries to get frisky, but we back up, take him out, and then right back to our firing position. There are a lot of red ships out there, but the way we're parked, we can limit who we shoot at and who can shoot at us. Taking 1v1 fights like this is a big part of succeeding in World of Warships. Obviously, every time you have to fight 2 or more ships, you're at a huge disadvantage, right? They can get crossfires, and almost any 2 ships in the game can out-DPM 1 ship. Simple maths. So even though there are a ton of enemies out there, when you're parked like this, you can choose who you want to shoot you. Now in this game, back on North, or whatever map this is, I would question my positioning just a little bit because there was a Massachusetts, a Lion, a Bismarck, and a lot of ships over on C-Cap that had my broadside. But it worked out. They were so far away that they couldn't really reliably deal damage. And now we're moving up. We have the Baltimore caught in a crossfire. Watch the overpins on this broadside Baltimore. We've shot 12 shells so far. That time we only hit 2. I believe on the first shot we had 4 overpins. And then now we'll try to adjust our aim and see if we can get these shots right into his belt armor and citadel. There we go, 6 pins. So you'll really have to adjust your aim and make sure you're shooting into the chunkiest part of broadside cruisers if you really want to get all of your damage and not have overpins. Now at this point in the game, I know the Z-23 is back on B, so we're going to turn in and see if we can get him out of the match as well. I have played Riga kind of in a kiting role. The rear firing angles are okay, so you can do that, but it seems to me like when I'm out in the open water, I just struggle with this ship. She seems to take a lot of damage. The final stats I would share. Concealment. It's nearly the worst of any tier 7 cruiser. 14.2, that's why you should use the concealment module. AA DPS. It's bad. It's really bad, and it hurts the ship because you can't really dodge, and speed is average. Overall, if you're hunting a good tech tree tier 7 heavy cruiser, say a radar cruiser, look no further than the Baltimore. It's still the king of the heavy radar cruisers at the tier. It has more effective HP, it's stealthier, it's more maneuverable, it has better DPM, it has a longer radar duration, albeit a less range, and it has nearly double the AA DPS, and it's only 1 knot slower. Now, it's not all terrible with Riga. These shells have the best armor penetration values and speed, velocity, of similar caliber guns at the tier. This chart is from WoW's fitting tool. The blue line is the Riga. Now, we do have Siegfried and Azuma on this chart, and it's not really fair because they're super cruisers and they have huge guns. Azuma has 310s, Siegfried 380s, but if we look at normal 8-inch-ish shells like Baltimore, Charles Martel, Mogami, the Riga is far superior in its ability to penetrate armor. It's great at long-range shooting, shooting battleships and other heavily armored targets, but with the cruisers you're going to see overpins. That's just how it goes. Overall, the Riga can be fun when she works out, but I see why she has so many complaints. There's an American counterpart that is simply better that I would recommend you play instead. Let me know what you guys think of her in the comment section down below. I wish you all the best of luck with your Riga in your Kronshtadt experience. Be sure to mash the like button, as that would greatly help me out and help more people see reviews like this. With that, I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.